Hi, I'm Mia. Before I dive into my story, please like and subscribe to hear more about my roller coaster of a life. Now, let's get into it. The sun was setting over the quiet, leafy suburb as I sat on the plush sofa, my mind a swirl of confusion and disbelief. The rumors about Chris, my husband, had been circulating for weeks, but I'd brushed them off. He's just being a good dad, I'd tell myself, thinking about his visits to his ex-wife Laura for their daughter Emily. But the call I received that day from Laura, it changed everything. Mia, I thought you should know Chris. He helped me in the shower today. I hurt my hand, and he insisted. Laura's voice was hesitant over the phone. I remember laughing it off at first. Chris? In the shower with you? That's ridiculous. But deep down, a seed of doubt was planted. The evening air felt colder as I mulled over her words. The confrontation with Chris was inevitable. I waited for him in our living room, the pictures of our happy times mocking me from the walls. Chris, we need to talk. It's about your visits to Laura, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. He walked in, tired from work, but his eyes widened at my tone. Mia, not this again. I told you, it's all for Emily, he said, his frustration evident. But helping her in the shower? Really, Chris? How stupid do you think I am? My voice cracked, the hurt seeping through. Chris's face hardened. Laura's lying, Mia. Why would I? It's ridiculous, he retorted. I wanted to believe him, I really did. But then, there was his phone, buzzing with a new message as he went to shower, left carelessly on the kitchen counter. A part of me screamed not to look, but I couldn't help myself. The messages were there, plain as day, the late-night texts, the intimate conversations, and yes, even the plans for their next rendezvous. It felt like a punch to the gut, each word a blow to our marriage, our vows. The confrontation that followed was a blur of anger, tears, and broken promises. How could you do this to us, Chris? To me, I remember shouting, the phone with those treacherous messages in my hand. Chris's face was a mix of guilt and defiance. Mia, it's not what you think. I can explain, he began, but I wasn't having any of it. Save it, Chris. I've seen enough. It's over. We're over. I cut him off, my voice resolute despite the turmoil inside me. He tried to approach me, probably to plead or apologize, but I stepped back. Don't. You've done enough. The finality in my voice surprised even me. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I moved out of our bedroom, started the paperwork for the divorce, and planned my next steps. Chris tried to talk, to apologize, to explain, but I was done. I had seen the real him, and there was no going back. My friends were a mix of supportive and shocked. I can't believe Chris would do that, exclaimed Jenna, my closest friend, as we sat in a cafe downtown. I know, right? But I saw the texts, Jenna. It's all true, I replied, sipping my coffee, the bitterness apt for the moment. So what are you going to do now? Jenna asked, her eyes full of concern. I'll make sure they regret this. They messed with the wrong woman, I said, a steely resolve taking over the hurt and betrayal. My plans were clear. I would expose their deceit, ensure I came out of this divorce on top, and make sure Chris and Laura understood the consequences of their actions. They had shattered my trust, my marriage, but they wouldn't shatter me. I was Mia, and this was just the beginning of their reckoning. Living in my small apartment, I was hit by the tidal wave of the divorce. My phone was buzzing nonstop, friends and family wanting to know the scoop. I was in the eye of the storm, trying to keep my cool. You're handling this better than anyone could, Mia, Jenna said one evening, as we sat surrounded by piles of documents, bank statements, text screenshots, you name it. I was on a mission to gather every shred of evidence. It's not about handling it, Jenna. It's about getting justice. They can't just walk away from this unscathed. My voice was firm, my resolve unwavering. Jenna nodded, knowing better than to argue. The visit to the lawyer, Mr. Davidson, was like stepping into a war room. So, Mrs. Thompson, let's discuss your strategy. He had a way of making it sound like a chess game. I want what's mine, and I want them to pay for their deceit. I laid out my demands. Financial security, a good chunk of Chris's assets, and no contact with Laura ever again. Davidson scribbled notes, his glasses perched on his nose. We have a strong case, especially with these messages and financial irregularities. I'm confident we'll get a favorable settlement, Davidson assured me. Back at work, I threw myself into every project. My boss, Mr. Green, noticed the change. "Mia, you've been on fire lately. Keep this up, and there's a promotion in your future," he said, his eyes scanning the latest report I'd compiled. "Thanks, Mr. Green. I'm just trying to stay focused," I replied, the brief smile hiding my inner turmoil. Then came the custody discussions. Emily, though not my biological daughter, had been part of my life for years. Chris and I had a tense meeting over it. "Mia, I know things are bad between us, but Emily loves you. You've been like a mother to her." His voice was softer now, stripped of the arrogance I'd grown used to. "Chris, I love Emily too, but after what you've done, I can't be part of this family dynamic anymore. It's best for her too." Saying those words was like swallowing glass, but I knew it was the right decision. Jenna was my rock through it all. "You're making tough choices, Mia, but they're the right ones. You're going to come out of this stronger." She said it with such conviction, I almost believed her. I started taking yoga classes, channeling my frustrations into each pose. The instructor, Lily, was like a breath of fresh air. "Let go of what doesn't serve you," she'd say. Easier said than done, but I was trying. The nights were the hardest. The loneliness of the apartment was suffocating. But I'd lay there, thinking of my plans, the revenge simmering in me. Chris and Laura would pay for every tear, every sleepless night. The social backlash was another beast. At a party, I overheard whispers. "That's Mia, the one whose husband cheated with his ex." The judgment in their tones stung, but I kept my head high. "Don't let them get to you, Mia. They don't know the half of it," Jenna would console me. She was right, but it didn't make it easier. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, I started feeling the pieces of my life coming together again. The pain was still there, a dull ache, but it was overshadowed by my newfound strength. "You're going to make it through this, Mia. And when you do, Chris and Laura will regret ever crossing you," I told my reflection one morning, a determined glimmer in my eye. This was just the beginning, and I was ready for whatever came next. In my new, sparsely decorated apartment, my laptop's glow was the only light in the early hours of the morning. I was crafting the blueprint of my retribution. "So you want to dig up everything? Affairs, financial skeletons, the works?" That was Ray, a private investigator I found through a discreet inquiry. His voice was gruff, seasoned by years of uncovering secrets. "Exactly. I want to know everything Chris and Laura are hiding. And I mean everything." My voice was steady, my determination unflinching. Ray's response was a dry chuckle. "You know, most of my clients want to find a way to forgive and forget. But you're different." "Forgiveness is overrated. I'm in it for justice," I replied, my eyes not leaving the screen. The following weeks were a flurry of covert operations and hushed conversations. Ray turned out to be a goldmine of information. "I found something you might find interesting," he said one afternoon, sliding a folder across the cafe table. Inside were bank statements, revealing suspicious withdrawals and unexplained expenses. Chris's financial infidelity was as stark as his personal one. The plan to disseminate this information was delicate. At a charity event, I casually conversed with Ellen, a well-connected socialite. "Ellen, have you heard about the Thompsons? Such a sad situation. Apparently there's more to it than just marital issues." My tone was of concern, not gossip. Ellen's eyes lit up with curiosity. "Really? Do tell, Mia." "Well, it's not my place to say, but I heard it involves money and other women." Poor Chris, led astray. My words were chosen carefully, planting seeds of doubt without directly incriminating myself. I repeated this pattern, subtly spreading the word. The rumors started to take on a life of their own. The legal preparations were like setting up a chessboard. Davidson was instrumental in this. "With the evidence we have, we can not only secure a favorable divorce settlement, but possibly press charges for fraud," he advised during one of our strategy sessions. "Let's go for the jugular. I want them to feel the full extent of the law," I said, my voice unwavering. Throughout this, my work life was a respite, though not without its challenges. "Mia, your focus has been incredible, but make sure you're not overdoing it," Mr. Green advised one day, genuine concern in his tone. "Don't worry, Mr. Green. I've never been more clear-headed," I reassured him, but my mind was constantly strategizing the next move in my grand plan. Evenings were spent in yoga, where Lily's soothing words helped temper my rage. "Release the negative energy, Mia. Let your inner strength guide you," she would say. It was a balm for my scorched soul. The preparation phase was coming to an end. I had a dossier on Chris and Laura, a network of whispered rumors, and a legal eagle ready to strike. The stage was set. "It's showtime," I whispered to myself one night, looking out at the city lights. They had no idea what was coming for them. The courtroom was a battlefield, and I was ready, armed with evidence and the truth. Chris and Laura sat across, their faces masks of forced calm. My lawyer, Davidson, was a picture of confidence. "The evidence is irrefutable, Your Honor. Financial irregularities, the affair, the deception, all point to my client's need for a fair settlement." Davidson presented the case with an air of undeniable certainty. Chris's lawyer tried to downplay it. "These accusations are greatly exaggerated. Mr. Thompson has always supported his family." Davidson cut in swiftly. "And yet, he financed his extramarital affair using joint funds, betraying my client's trust and their marital vows." The judge's eyes narrowed as she reviewed the documents. "The evidence is compelling. I'm inclined to grant a significant settlement in Mrs. Thompson's favor." Outside the courtroom, Chris cornered me. "Mia, please, can we talk about this?" His voice was a mix of desperation and false sincerity. "There's nothing to talk about. The court has made its decision," I replied, my tone cold and detached. "But Mia, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Can't we try to—" "Save your apologies, Chris. They mean nothing to me now." Cutting him off, I walked away, his pleas fading behind me. The fallout was swift and brutal. Chris's professional reputation took a hit as details of the affair, and the financial fraud became the talk of the town. Laura faced her own backlash, shunned by friends and colleagues. At a mutual friends' party, whispers followed me around. But this time, I held my head high. "Did you hear about Mia? She really showed them, didn't she?" The undertone of respect was new and empowering. "Mia, you're like a phoenix rising from the ashes," Jenna said, squeezing my hand at the party. "More like a dragon, Jenna. I breathe fire now," I joked. But there was truth in it. Back at the office, the news had made its rounds. "Mia, I heard about the settlement. You have my respect for handling this with such grace," Mr. Green commented one day, admiration clear in his voice. "Thank you, Mr. Green. It's been a challenging time, but I believe in facing things head-on," I replied, a newfound confidence in my stride. But the real victory was in my newfound independence. I used the settlement to fund a new start. I started planning a small business, something I had always dreamed of but never pursued. As for Chris, his attempts to reconnect were met with a firm wall. "Mia, can't we at least be friends? For old time's sake?" he pleaded over a chance encounter at a cafe. "Chris, there's no old times to reminisce. We're strangers now, and that's how it will stay." My response was final, closing any doors to the past. I walked out of the cafe, the chapter of Chris and Laura firmly closed behind me. I was ready for a new chapter, one where I was the author of my destiny. As I turned off the lights of Mia's haven, the quiet of the night enveloped me. The day's success was a reminder of how far I'd come. Walking down the empty streets, the cool breeze felt like a gentle affirmation of my newfound freedom. The next morning, the cafe was abuzz with the regulars and some new faces. I found myself sharing my story more openly, each word a bridge connecting me to others. "I read about your journey, Mia. It's inspiring how you turned a bad situation into this beautiful place," a customer, Mike, said, his eyes scanning the cozy cafe. "Thank you, Mike. It wasn't easy, but I believe in making the best out of what we have," I replied, pouring him another cup of coffee. The cafe wasn't just a business. It was a testament to resilience. Every cup of coffee served, every slice of cake shared, was a part of my story. A story of not just surviving, but thriving. Jenna popped in later, her eyes sparkling with some news. "Mia, guess what? I've been talking to some contacts. There's interest in turning your story into a book. Can you believe it? A book? My story?" I was taken aback. The thought of my journey on paper, out in the world, was both daunting and exhilarating. "Yes, your story could inspire so many people. Think about it, Mia." Jenna's excitement was infectious. The idea simmered in my mind as I tended to the cafe. My story, a beacon for others navigating through their storms. It was a powerful thought. Later that day, a young woman, Sarah, approached me. She was hesitant at first, then poured out her story of betrayal and loss. It was like looking into a mirror of my past. I don't know how to move on, Mia. It feels like I'm stuck in this darkness. Sarah's voice trembled with unshed tears. I reached out, taking her hands in mine. Sarah, I've been where you are, but trust me, there's light ahead. You're stronger than you know, and you will get through this. As she nodded, a look of hope dawning in her eyes, I realized the impact my journey could have. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It was a shared narrative of overcoming and rebirth. That evening, as I sat in the quiet of my cafe, pen in hand, the words started flowing. The story of Mia, the pain, the betrayal, the strength, and the triumph. It was time to share it with the world. Here's to new chapters and new stories, I whispered to myself, my heart full of hope and the future bright with possibilities. What do you think about the choices Mia made after discovering the betrayal? If you found yourself in a similar situation, faced with deception from someone you trusted deeply, what steps would you take? Do you believe in seeking justice and exposing the truth as Mia did? Or do you feel there's a different, perhaps more forgiving path that one could take? It's a challenging scenario that many might face in different forms. Let's open up a discussion. How do you navigate the complex emotions and decisions following a deep personal betrayal? What are your thoughts on forgiveness versus seeking retribution? Your insights and experiences are valuable, and we're eager to read your comments. Each perspective adds depth to our understanding of these intricate human experiences. And if Mia's journey resonated with you, or if it sparked new thoughts and feelings, we'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. Also, consider subscribing to our channel for more engaging and thought-provoking stories. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions are more than just numbers. They're a big part of what motivates us to create and share content that connects and resonates with you. Join our community, and let's continue these important conversations together.